Good morning. It's so good to be here this morning. I've always had a special place in my heart for your community here, and I'm so grateful for the invitation to be with you, to share a message, and to spend time together, studying and thinking and being as one community. Like Reverend Lavenhar, I actually just completed a little vacation myself. He's on vacation, so I'm here, but I just completed my vacation. It was my first time away from Tulsa in about 16 months. I don't know if you guys heard there was a pandemic. So I went with my family, my two young kids, and my wife. We went to Florida. I grew up in Florida, so that's where my family is. And we got to spend some time together. It was really lovely. And as it happened, the timing of this trip couldn't have been better. I mean, 16 months without a vacation, that was good too. But the timing of the trip was useful because in Gainesville, Florida, where my parents live, also lives my grandmother. My grandmother just, 11 days ago, July 7th, celebrated her 94th birthday. And I got to be with my grandmother for her 94th birthday. What could be better? What could be better than to sit with her and have her tell me stories and to bring her great-grandchildren, her youngest of which she had never met. She met for the first time, a couple of days before, because we couldn't resist being in town and not bringing, but we got to spend that time with her. It was a beautiful day. But that day was actually doubly beautiful for my family. I've got a brother. My brother lives in Orlando, so not that far, an hour and a half away, so right in the same area. And as it happens, my brother also has a birthday. And my brother's birthday is, any guesses? July 7th. A grandson and a grandmother sharing the same birthday. And as it happened, it had been a long time since my brother and I had shared a birthday together. I'd been with him on a birthday. We grew up going to summer camp. And so you know what happens at summer camp. You never see each other in the summer. Ever. 31 years since my brother and I had been able to celebrate his birthday together. So it's really, really special. And I've always found it quite the coincidence, quite a special thing that a grandson and a grandmother share the same birthday. Pretty remarkable, right? In fact, if you have two people together, what are the odds? Well, I'll tell you. The odds that two people in conversation, it's 0.2% that those two people will have the same birthday. It's, I think, straightforward math, but I let other people do the math for me. So if you are the person doing the math in your head, double check me. 23 people in a room? Well, if 23 people in a room together, there's a 50% chance that there are two people in that room who share the same birthday. The number goes up. If 30 people in a room, the odds are just over 70% that two people will share the same birthday. And if it is 58 people in a room, sounds like about this number of folks we have here, maybe more if we include all of you who we are including who are with us online. Well, it's nearly 100% likely that two people here are sharing that coincidence, are sharing that same date, are sharing that same birthday. But the coincidence of calendar is, as it happens, something I want us to think about this morning. Because today is a special day on the Hebrew calendar. The calendar which we use in my community to mark time, to count time, to mark sacred days, to count in a different way, to count in a way as a community. Today is the 9th day of the Hebrew month of Av. The 9th day of Av. In Hebrew, Tisha B'Av. the 9th of Av. And it's a day, too, which has a story of coincidence. Things that seem to happen on or around this day as well. The 9th of Av. What happened on the 9th of Av? Second temple. The second temple was destroyed. The temple built by Ezra and Nehemiah, destroyed in 70 CE, scattering the people of Judea and commencing exile. When did that happen? The 9th of Av. It was just that. That's a pretty significant day on our calendar. But no, 586 BCE, many years before, the first temple destroyed. The actual destruction began on the 7th day of Av and continues on the 10th day of Av, but as our tradition understands it, what happened on the 9th? The temple was destroyed. This 9th of Av feels unlucky. This time period itself feels challenging. Our tradition, even earlier than that, when the Midrash thinks about the stories of the Bible, it thinks about a story of the 12 spies being sent by Moses into the land to determine whether it would be a place of prospering, whether it was ready to be settled. Well, 10 of those spies come back with negative reports, and only two with a positive report, and therefore, according to the Mishnah, the day of that report, a day of tragedy, a day of challenge, and what day? The 9th of Av. But if that was all, it would be enough. But no, the first crusade commences on August 15th, 1096. Now, this is not the 9th of Av. It's a little bit of a stretch, but stay with me for a second. 24th of Av, right? Just a few days later, the first crusade begins. 10,000 Jews killed in that first month, destroying Jewish communities in France and the Rhineland. July 18th, 1290, the Jewish community, Jewish people, expelled from England. Can you guess what day that was? 9th of Av. Jews were expelled from France on July 22nd, 1306 on 10th of Av. Jews were expelled from Spain on July 31st, 1492 on 7th. But I knew you were going to go to 11th, so that's why I did it. Germany enters World War I on August 1st and 2nd, 1914, the 9th and 10th of Av. August 2nd, 1941, the 9th of Av, Heinrich Himmler receives formal approval from the Nazi Party for the final solution. July 23rd, 1942, the 9th of Av, mass deportation of Jews from the Warsaw Ghetto began. I could actually go on. Coincidence? I don't know. We've got that odd thing about numbers and dates, which we know about from the coincidence of birthdays. But still, this day stands apart, and you might be able to see why, as something worthy of our focus and our attention and our practice. So what do we do with this day? We, the Jewish community. What do we do with the 9th of Av? Well, it's a day. It's a day that we call the saddest day of the year. Even if the fact of the day, of today, does not spell out that something bad will happen to me or to my community today, because I'm a lucky person who lives in a lucky community at a lucky time, then we still focus our attention and do things with this day. Think about this day. Today is actually the 9th of Av. For 25 hours, some Jews in their practice don't eat or drink. They don't wash or bathe. They don't anoint. They don't engage with the pleasures of life that are accessible to us. Why? To experience some of the sadness. Why? Because we're sad. Because we recall tragedy that has befallen us, tragedy that has shaped our community. There are more customs, there are more things we do with this day. There are prohibitions against studying the Bible except for the sad parts. Eicha, the book of Lamentations, Job, portions of Jeremiah, chapters of the Talmud, which discuss grief and mourning and the destruction of the temple. We sit on the floor or in low stools. Instead of singing or chanting, certainly at the beginning of the day, we do so in muted tones, reciting prayers with voices of people who are not happy. In short, what do we do with this day? A day of coincidence, perhaps. We perform our sadness. Of course, some of you may be familiar with some of the practices I just spoke about. Jews fast in a similar manner on Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, and as I've mentioned, in the days following the loss of a loved one, we mourn and grieve with some of these customs as well. Whether or not these events actually took place on the 9th of Av, or the 10th, or the 11th, or the 24th, or we have ascribed them to this day of memory, the practice of observing this day is for us significant. In a way, what I want to say is what the 9th of Av is a sacred container. And into it, we observe, perhaps we have placed the saddest events in our people's history, the saddest events in Jewish history. This day is a container. This day is the place where we will keep our things. We need containers. We especially need containers, I think, for sad moments and painful moments, but we need containers. Why do we need containers? Why do we need those containers in our lives? Well, containers do a lot of good for us. They help us organize our thoughts and feelings and memories. The containers that exist in my pantry, the containers that exist in my office, the containers that exist on the ships sailing down the Suez Canal. They help us organize the world around us. We need containers, and without those containers, it's very hard to operate in this world. But we also need containers because containers give us perspective. Let us look at what we have, at what's in front of us. They let us understand what is before us, and in that way allows us to know what to do with those things that we are holding on to. Let's return to my pantry. I can look at the containers and I know how much flour I have left. I can go into my office, I can look on the shelves, and I can know that I probably shouldn't buy that next book because there's not much container room left. We need the containers because they not only organize our things, but they give us perspective. They help us know what we have. They help us know where we are and what we might need as well. And of course, containers allow us to look comprehensively at our story, at our history, at our archives, at our family stories, at our photographs, at our photo albums, that's the word. Let us look at that with a sense of depth and familiarity. But especially when it comes to containing our pain, when it comes to containing these sad things that have happened in our lives, and we know sad things happen in our lives, it is especially difficult to contain those moments. New things are always happening. Painful and difficult moments scar us and create trauma that we can't help but revisit over and over again in our minds. We have a tendency as human beings to focus on the negative. And if we were only to focus on the negative, well, that would be difficult as well. Think of the year gone by, or the 16 or 17 months gone by. We can all remember moments of grief and mourning. We can recall the sadness of birthdays mediated through the Zoom screen. The fear of contagion and its resulting isolation, the sense of urgency to grab toilet paper and flour off the shelf at Reese's when we see them. We can point to specific days as well, moments of memory, moments of pain of just these past 16 or 17 months. March 13th. That's the day, at the synagogue at least, we decided everything was going to change. Close the doors. Let's go online. Let's think of a new way to be a community. May 25th. May 25th, the day George Floyd was killed, the day our country woke up in a new way to what was happening all along, a day that ignited a new sense of a push for justice and equality. January 6th, the date of the insurrection, the date at which we saw the Capitol building under assault. If we let it, we could point to a moment of tragedy, a moment of difficulty, a moment of pain, a moment of sorrow on every single day of the year. We could, because sorrow is a part of life. And pain is a part of life. And that's why we need sacred containers. That's why we need days like the 9th of Av. But this idea of containers is useful to us beyond the world of tragedy and pain. We know this to be true. We know that containers are a good idea for helping us organize our lives. There's a store, the Container Store. And many of us like to go, although we don't have one in Tulsa, so if anyone can work on that, that'd be great. We like to go to the Container Store or to stores and look at the fantasy of what it might be to have an organized life or how we might organize our lives. We want to be able to contain things. And then beyond just going to the Container Store, it's actually entertainment. Anyone watch The Home Edit on Netflix? Or read The Art of Tidying Up with Marie Kondo? The same thing. We entertain ourselves with this idea that we can contain it all, that we want to contain it all, and that by doing something, we will be able to contain life's messiness. And maybe we will be able to. Even life's happy moments are served by having containers for them. Our birthdays, our anniversaries, our celebrations, by giving a focus to those days, to moments of rejoicing, our sense of what they are and can be is heightened. Life is messy. This we know. And the forces of entropy are incredibly strong. And so this practice of containing things, of putting our things in containers, of organizing our lives is something that needs our constant attention. To return to this day, the 9th of Av, of course, you heard me give the list of all the sad things that have happened to the Jews over the course of human history. We observe this day as the saddest day on the calendar year, and guess what? We're sad on other days too. There are other days which we mark for remembrance. We mark for tragedy. We mark for the trauma that they remind us of. The anniversary of the Tree of Life shooting. Kristallnacht. Yom HaShoah, Holocaust Remembrance Day. All sorts of days on the calendar. All sorts of moments in the year in which we turn to the moment of sadness that happened in that way, where we actually can't contain that sadness, where that sadness doesn't get placed into the collecting point, into the sacred container, which is the 9th of Av. Why? Well, because memory is a thing as well. And the experiences we have are things as well. One who lived through the occurrence of Pearl Harbor remembers Pearl Harbor in a different way than one who has only read about it or heard the stories from people who had that experience. Time changes things. And it's that threat of time changing things that we too need to be attentive to. That's also why we need containers. Because time happens. And the memories that we have in our minds, well, those memories can fade and can shift and can change. And so we return to the need for containers. Why? To hold on to the stories. To hold on to what might fade. To hold on to what might be lost to history. And so we find ourselves in a challenging place. But we know as well a very real place. A place in which we encounter a messy life. It's the lives we live. A place in which we experience pain and tragedy and sorrow. A place in which we also experience happiness and joy and celebration. And what we do, what we can do, what we might try to do, is look for places to contain those feelings. Look for places to contain those memories. Look for ways in which we can hold on to what we've experienced, that we can transmit what we know to the next generation, that we can preserve and clean up and create order in this life that we know is so messy. It's the saddest day of the Jewish year. It's a day in which I recall that memory. But the lesson, I think, the blessing, I think, is one that's important for us all. We experience the world around us. We are awake to it. We feel the feelings, we experience the messiness, and we, in our own ways, try to create order, try to create meaning, try to create purpose. Let us live in a world that we acknowledge is messy. But let us also do something that can help us clean it up. Let us also do something that can help us bring it order and bring it containment and bring it a perspective that makes our world and our lives more complete, more connected, and more blessed. So may this be our blessing on this day of Tisha B'Av. And let us all say, Amen, Amen.
Thank you for joining us. For 100 years, All Souls in Tulsa has been a beacon of this free faith. We offer our services and programs freely online for all those who are interested. You can help us to do this by making a one-time gift today or a reoccurring pledge. We really appreciate you joining us and being a part of helping us make All Souls in Tulsa what it is. Thank you.
I'm going to share a song with you now called Oseh Shalom, which is a part of our Jewish liturgy. And the translation of the prayer I'll read to you. May the one who makes peace in the high heavens make peace for us, for all Israel, and all who inhabit the earth. Oseh Shalom b'imroma, hu yaseh shalom, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, yaseh shalom aleinu, oseh shalom b'imroma. Hu yaseh shalom, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol, ve'al kol, ve'al kol Israel, ve'al kol, ve'al kol, ve'al kol, yoshvei tevet.